Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome. Welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on this beautiful Monday night as we come to you from Lansdowne, PA. Today is Monday, April the 24th, 2023. And as always, Father God, we just want to give you praise, we want to give you honor, we want to magnify your name. Blessed be your holy name forever. We are grateful to you. We want to thank you for giving us the chance to see another day. And Father, the fact that we can get up and say good morning to you, we are grateful. The fact that we are not in the hospital and we're over here doing what is it that we love to do, we are also grateful. In the name of Jesus, we're giving you thanks. And folks, as always, some heard the name, some heard people talk about him. He has traveled extensively in Europe, America, and parts of Africa. He brings back home his talent and expertise to the shows of British Radio Africa. Some call him the mastermind, the doctor of love, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia. Africa's media doobie doo extraordinaire. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than the lion. As for the giant, and now you know me, Garley. Welcome to the show. Okay, we're back, and folks, if you're just joining us, please share the video, invite a few friends, and so that we can together have a great time tonight. I'd like to say hi to Charlene Dunbar. It's been a minute, Charlene. How are you? I also like to say hi to Peter Nouvelle. Peter, how you doing? My own cousin, AB. I know it was tough at the weekend. My man, hanging there, still strong. God is your strength, Mr. Bobley. Waddy Thompson and Manje Sal Perry. How you all doing tonight? And folks, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host, Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts, as she sets the tone for the program tonight. Mrs. Roberts, hello and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Mr. Garley. How are you?
Well, in the words of Les Brown, I'm better than good.
Awesome. How was your weekend?
Fantabulous. Had a great time, and it feels great to be back to doing what I love to do.
All righty. We thank you. We want to say good evening to all of our viewers. Welcome to another edition of Bridge Radio Africa with your host, ASHFORD, the giant Garley. We're asking you to make yourselves comfortable as we have a lot of discussions for you tonight. How is your country doing? Who's running your country? So many questions. We hope you have some answers. As we welcome our panelists, we say make yourselves comfortable, grab your drink or meal of choice. Relax, share the show. Please be respectful of each other. Be respectful of our panelists. Most importantly, please be respectful of our host. Back to you, Mr. Garley.
Well, thank you. Let me go ahead and introduce the rest of the panelists we have with us. Dr. James T. Fisk. Hello and welcome to the show, Doc.
Thank you, Ashford. It's a pleasure. How are you, Ms. Roberts? I just want to tell the viewing public out there, thanks for taking time off of the busy schedule to once more interact with us. I hope we live up to the expectation tonight, as we've always done in the past. Thank you.
The Reverend Pastor Idatus Added, one of the hottest political enthusiasts. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Greetings to all of you wonderful panelists. Greetings to my fellow Liberians. We're here again to talk about our country and trust that, God willing, it will be a better one for all. Thank you.
And I have with us now the real estate investor, IT guru, Mr. Joel Dennis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Garley. Thank you, my fellow panelists and fellow viewers watching us tonight. Hopefully tonight we'll have a lot of informative and inspiring information to hand out. And Pastor Addy, I really love that shirt you're wearing. You have to share the tailor with me. Thank you.
Okay.
I sure will.
Well, having said that, folks, I think we should go ahead and introduce to you tonight our special guest. He's already in studio, backstage, and our guest is the Honorable Bau Cole, and he's the former Commissioner of Police for Administration and Professional Standards, 103, Liberia National Police, the former head of Maritime Security, Liberia Maritime Authority, former chairman of the Technical Committee for the establishment of the International Ship and Port Security, ISPS, excuse my voice tonight, and former Port Facility Security Officer, National Port Authority, former Sector Decentralization Consultant, Governance Commission, and of course, former chairman of the Technical Committee of the establishment of the Financial Intelligence Unit of Liberia. He's also a lecturer at the University of Liberia, the AMB Zion University, and the AMB University. Tonight, we are going to be discussing the security situation in the country. And he's also running, his heart is in the race to be the next representative of District 4, Montserrat County. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we introduce to you the Honorable Bau Cole. Honorable Cole, welcome to the show. Please unmute your device. We can't hear you, sir. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you, sir. You might want to please log off and log in. We can't hear you. There's no audio coming from your end. You were saying something, but there's no audio coming from your end, sir. Can you please log off and log back in? Okay, folks, as we wait for Unbakua to get back in, I don't know what's happening with his device. Let's try this again. Hello. We still can't hear you, sir. There's no audio coming from your end. Okay. Well, gentlemen, where is Letty? I can't see her. Let us begin with the hottest trending news now. The message from the outgoing U.S. Ambassador McCarty, where he told the world today that he can now boast of visiting the entire country in terms of the 15 political subdivisions. And he expressed to us in his foundings. And let's see if we can do this again by getting the Honorable Coin. Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you, sir. Okay. Again,
Hello?
welcome to the. Yeah, we can hear you now, sir. Again,
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Again, welcome to the show. I just gave a little.
All right. Thank
I
you.
just gave a little gist of who you are and what is it that you do. But you have the first 2 minutes to introduce yourself, sir.
All right. Thank you, ASHFORD. Again, my name is Wauko. I am an attorney at law, graduate of the Louis Arthur Grant School of Law. I'm also a graduate of Temple University. I obtained a bachelor degree at Temple University. I also obtained a Master of Science degree from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm here as a lecturer. I'm also a lawyer. Beyond that, actually, I am a security personnel. Once a security man, always a security person. At this point, I'm also in politics. I'm aspiring for the representative seat of District Number 4, Moserado County. So far, I think I can stop that far with the introduction, and we can move forward.
The name Bau Cool. This is a very unusual name. Tell us the meaning of the name and tell us the origin of this name.
All right, so Bauko is a name from Grand Jide County. Back in the days, during the times of our forefathers, they believe in, their traditional values, and they never had it like the way it is being interpreted today in Western society as, devil or Satan. All they had was, they had their own ancestral spirits and gods. And so Bau actually is one of those names that came out of that process where they had this superior being or an intercessory force. So the name is like saying something of old, something that has existed from time immemorial. So that's the name of Bau. Kou is the name of a bird, like the woodpecker. So you combine the two names, that's what you have.
Okay, now with your credential, Mr. Kou, let us talk about the security situation in the country. And people are complaining of safety, position that you're vying for. There's some people who are in that position. They're also concerned about their safety. There seems to be no law and order in the country. People are running head to scatter. What do you make of the security situation in Liberia?
Well, this is what I'm going to tell you. The current security situation in Liberia is extremely poor, and it is the result of the decisions that have been made over the years by the president of Liberia, Ambassador Weah. You see, as a government and as a president, actually, one of your fundamental responsibility to your people is to provide safety and security. That's fundamental. That is required by Constitution. Even if you are not in the position to build all of the beautiful rules, the issue of security actually becomes a fundamental mandate. And so one of the things that happened in the past few years under this president was identifying and appointing individuals who lack the requisite qualification, competence, leadership, experience, and capability to manage the different security agencies in the country. In summary, the heads of security became what I would refer to as, a party-based security head. And so with that kind of appointment, the security institutions were not able to generate the kind of momentum and leadership that they needed to provide the kind of safety and security for the people of Liberia. So
Well,
at this point, what you have is
didn't you know
a situation.
Didn't you know this before? Because you were a staunch member of his party. He was one of your close friends, so to speak. What changed? What happened? Because you were once a bona fide member.
Okay, so this is what I would say. First, no, let me make the clarity. Never have I been a member of the CDC. Never. However, I've always been a supporter of President Weah. I had expectation that this president will be able to identify individuals that have the competence to manage government or to assist him as he steers the affairs of the country. Now, for me, I look at Liberia holistically, although I do have a lot of concentration on the security agency of the country. So it has become a matter of concern. And so the entire security, there's a complete breakdown of security. The only reliance and hope that we have at this point is the fact that majority of the people of Liberia have made this personal commitment to at least comply with the law where necessary. And so even with the breakdown of security, you do have some level of sanity in the country, and that is credited to the ordinary people of Liberia who believe that peace and security is important for their development. But the president has been very clear, even if it was just in joke, that the people of Liberia should be their own security. And he even extended that by saying people should go and find CCTV themselves and all of those things. So what you have is no secret. We do have a major security challenge in the country. We do have a police force that lacks the capacity to respond if services are requested. You do have a DEA that is pretty much the agency that is coordinating the sale of narcotics.
Somebody that you admire and you support. What has been your approach to him?
Supported.
Supported him. What has been your advice to him in terms of the security situation? Because people on the outside looking in are saying,
okay, so this is what I would say. This is what I would say to you, ASHFORD. The president, as a celebrity over the years, has always enjoyed praises, and so he was successful in creating an inner circle that has always praised him. Now, for my level of training, expertise, and education, and my dedication to Liberia, I could not fit in that circle, even though once in a while we engage and talk about some of these issues. But he was always complaining that every time I stopped by, I was not bringing any motivational statement, but I was bringing critical issues that tend to criticize him. The truth here is that for you to maintain a relationship with the president, you must prove your loyalty. In the process of proving loyalty, you must prove to the highest level that you lack the capacity to think independently. And so if you are an individual who actually has some ability to rationalize, then of course you are questioned. The way it is that any dissenting opinion is interpreted as disloyalty. And so that has been the challenge. And at that point, it became extremely impossible. In fact, it became impossible to break through. And so, yes, we continue the friendship, but these are issues that are not secret, and any attempt by me to provide any misleading information to the Liberian people will be affecting my own character, and my reputation will be placed on the line. So I cannot go that route.
Many have argued that one of the reasons that you are on the outside looking in is because of, so to speak, your lack of respect for your superior and your arrogance. Some argue that you once served as 103 at the Liberian National Police, but you never got along with your boss. And when you went at LRA, the same thing happened. Then you moved to the political arena where you were chairman for the Prince Johnson Party. When things didn't go your way, you expelled Prince Johnson from his own party and took over that party. Now we're hearing you're back again in support of Prince Johnson. Why don't you think those criticisms are valid?
Nah, well, that's not true. You see, and this is where this is where we need to be able to analyze some of the issues in this country. The truth here is that once you become a principle-minded person, then individuals who are in error or who intend to destroy systems will see you as an antagonistic force. When I serve the Liberian National Police, I serve with the highest level of dedication and commitment, to the point that if the Liberian National Police was a political institution today, and you ask the police to now vote for who they want to be director, I can assure you, ASHFORD, Bauku will secure at least 98% of the total vote. Because the work we did at the Liberian National Police was admired by the ranks and file. When you hear people talking about this agreement, this is how they want life to be. They want to come in and contaminate the system. They want to come in and destroy system. They want to come in and corrupt system, but they do not want anybody within the system to have a contrast view or to challenge the decisions that they are making that tend to undermine the system, the government, and the country. So if you fast forward, I have always maintained my independence. I've always maintained my straightforwardness when it comes to Liberia. I may do something else any part of the world, but when it comes to Liberia, I am 100% dedicated to making sure that the right things are done in Liberia, regardless of who is managing the country or managing the institution. So at the LRA, of course, no, there was no situation like that. We were able to set up the LRA. I'm the architect behind the establishment of the Liberia Revenue Authority. I just decided that I will stay with the World Bank and provide advisory service to the Minister of Finance. And bear in mind, I have served 4 ministers, including the current minister, Samuel D. Twe. So I've had a very good relationship with my colleagues, especially individuals who were dedicated to doing the right thing. If you come to the Prince Johnson issue, we have to understand in Liberia that political parties should exist based on ideology and philosophy, not individual and personality. And so the NUDP at the time was built on a philosophy of unity and hard work. And so when you have a leader who personalizes the institution and decide that he will run the institution whatever way he or she feels, then of course people like me is on an obligation to intervene. And so the expulsion of Senator Johnson was simply a principal issue, the principal disagreement or policy disagreement issue that the National Executive Committee of the party reached a decision that Senator Johnson can no longer lead this institution, and his action was counterproductive to the growth and development of the party. And as chairman, I was left with no option but to affix my signature on the expulsion document of Senator Johnson. Now, that does not mean that there was personal issue. We are men, and so we resolve our issue. Senator Johnson and myself, we do talk on a regular basis. We talk about everything, including politics and family. And so we maintain the relationship. I would call myself an individual who have an excellent working relationship with the people that I work with. The only challenge is that once that person has a plan to contaminate the system or to corrupt the system, then of course, actually, I will have to checkmate them. And I'm prepared to do that at every level, even as we prepare to go to the national legislature.
Well, still on security, folks, if you just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio Africa. Please share the video, subscribe to the page both on YouTube and Facebook. Tell friends to join you as well. I will not go in the room, and Mr. Cole, you will have 2 minutes to respond to questions coming in from the panelists. Let us begin with the Reverend Pastor Idatus Ade. Please unmute your device.
Greetings. Such a pleasure having you. You have such an impeccable resume. Thanks for your decision to contest. But the young lady you're running against, the name is Rosalind Swakoko Dennis, happens to be a voice of advocacy amongst the people. The question I have for you is that she petitioned 50 senators within the House of Representatives to bring about the War Crimes Court. and a position that Prince Johnson isn't comfortable with. Is that something you're willing to pursue? Should you become a senator of District Number 4?
Representative, you mean?
I mean, right, representative of District Number 4.
This is what I will say to you, Pastor Adi. The issue of war crime code should never be personalized. It should not be looked at in the spirit of isolation by any of us. What I think is it requires a friendly and understanding approach. The truth here is that it doesn't matter who opposes the war crime code. I am one of those individuals who will continue to support the war and economic crime code for Liberia. This way, we will be able to clear some of the doubts. And so the war crime code provides an opportunity for individuals who have been accused to clear their name. And so I do not see the war crime code as an institution established for Senator Johnson. No, I think the war crime code is important for all of us as Liberians so we can have closure on some of the things that happened during the war. So yeah, this is what I can say to you, Pastor Adi. I am in full support of such process, and I am dedicated to that process. And I feel, regardless of who supports me or not, there's a need for us to be able to establish the war and economic crime codes in this country so that we can resolve some of the issues and the doubts that many of our people who were affected from the war, including me, can have some resolution or closure.
Follow up, Stanley.
Right. So, having said that, how popular are you in District Number 4? Prince Johnson said he will not support her because of her efforts to malign his character as a murderer. Do you have the support of Senator Johnson?
Well, actually, we have been having conversation, and this is what I will say to you. Senator Johnson and myself, we speak man to man. And so if you have to look at Liberia and look at Senator Johnson, of course, if you are asking me to choose, then of course you already know my decision. I choose Liberia first. And so if my advocacy or if my stand on the issue of war and economic crime code is interpreted as an attack on Senator Johnson, then of course that misinterpretation should go back. The truth here is the war and economic crime code is not targeted at Senator Johnson. It should be a national approach, and there are several individuals who participated in the war in Liberia who should account for their action. And so Senator Johnson has always provided sufficient justification for his involvement in the war. And I think that will also give him a platform to be able to make the clarity. So I would say this issue of war crime code has absolutely nothing to do with Senator Prince Johnson. I think it's a national issue, and we need to approach it in a way that is friendly and understanding with a clear objective and common effort.
Thank you. Let us move to Dr. James T. Fisk.
How are you, and welcome to Bridge Radio. Just for the benefit of our viewing public, help us to understand some important things. Help the public understand what party you represent, if you're running for a party or you're running as an individual. Number one. Number two, help us to understand when you talk about District Number 4. A number of people viewing right now wouldn't know what District Number 4 is. Help us to identify what that represents.
All right, thank you. First of all, I intend to be on the ballot as an independent candidate. The reason clearly is the fact that I am being supported by individuals across political party lines. And so I want to maintain my independence, not just to be elected, but even after being elected, I am dedicated and committed to remaining independent as I sit at the national legislature. District Number 4 is in Mosurado County. It covers the Zobatan, somewhere called Zobatan, the Dupolo area, moving across to a place called Shara, which is also Dupolo, crossing over to Sokline, going to as far as FDA. And so it is a very, very huge area. And then crossing at the back of the of Painesville, Joe Bar.
Okay. So
It goes.
thank you for helping us to identify that vast area that whoever represents District Number 4 is going to be articulating on behalf of that. And as people would say, every politics is local. Help us to understand what is the major issue you've identified as being tantamount to progress or the lack thereof in that district that you intend to target. Help us to understand. What is your major philosophy as far as working to see a difference in that District 4? What exactly are your specific plans for District Number 4? What should the people be looking out for just in case you become their representative? What changes should they be looking for in places like Dupont Road, in places like Painesville, and all those kinds of areas?
All right. So this is what I would say. First thing, the district by statistic is the largest in the Republic of Liberia. The recent voter registration show almost 80,000 registered voters. If you apply that number to the general population of the district, you might be talking about over 250,000 human beings.
So what's the major problem facing that area?
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting to. When it comes to development should be directed at the people. When you have a huge number of people concentrated in such area, it is important for government to focus its services, including healthcare, education, primary education up to senior high school. The number is too huge. In fact, the number actually will constitute some counties.
Have you considered the population of unemployed people in that district? Because you just listed health. What's the percentage of people unemployed in that area? Because mind you,
okay, so you want to look at when you look at you want to look at
to get the question right. If you list education and health, it tells me that you are satisfied with the number of unemployment in that area. Do you know how many people in that area are unemployed? 80,000 people. Do you know how many of them are unemployed? That you are now listing education and health as your major priority in District Number 4.
Okay. Yes. So the first thing I've said is that the district has a register of voting population of about 80,000. The number exact is about 79,341, about that. And I'm also talking about the general population that include both registered voter and individuals who did not reach the voting age, to estimate it to around 250,000. And so I was just in the conversation when you brought a follow-up question. I spoke about government services directed at the district with such a huge population compared to many counties in the country. And so the whole idea actually is to provide that advocacy so that government will see the district based on its number instead of putting the district into the county and addressing the district situation as a as part of the county issue. And so when you look at the issue of unemployment, you just simply have to look at the general unemployment numbers, which seem to be fluctuating over the period, and that number, that statistic can be applied to the district. So as it is right now, one of the things actually that we are going to be focusing on, like I said, is the issue of healthcare, the issue of education, primarily. Then we can move on to the other things, because the district is not seated in a way that it has its own budget and can provide opportunity. It has to be aligned with the national strategy with respect to unemployment. So as we move forward and dealing with the fundamental issues affecting the district, including security, so then we can now extend.
So you are saying that just the last question, just the last follow-up.
Others are on. So
yeah, exactly. One last question. You are saying that other than your national prerogative as being a legislator, you don't have any personal responsibility in terms of trying to create jobs? That's my last question.
All right. So I think what we could do actually is to provide a little bit of education with respect to what we call the district. When it comes to our representative democracy, the first thing you should understand, it is designed in a way that what we are saying is we will be discussing Liberia, and we need one person from district number 4 to sit on the table for us to discuss Liberia. So if you understand the governance process in Liberia, district number 4 does not have its own money. District number 4 does not have its own budget. The entire district, like any other district and county in the Republic of Liberia, relies entirely on the national budget to be able to deliver on the services to the people. Our strategy primarily is to focus on the kind of representation that will draw the attention of the national government to the district. Now, the issue of personal, those are things that we are already doing, providing some incentive to deserving youth, but those are not the focus of the representative. The focus is to be able to provide adequate representation that brings the district forward when it comes to services to be delivered by the national government. Because what you are suggesting is what have led to Liberia continuing to fail, where individuals are asked to do personal things, and so the country is being given, or districts are given to the individual who provide the highest amount of money or resources to the district, and so that person automatically qualifies to take over the district. But the person's inability to represent the people is no longer taken into consideration. So primarily, you have a responsibility constitutionally to do a particular job, and the personal issue is something that you can extend as we move forward. So the vision for the district is clear: provide adequate representation, oversight responsibility, making sure that we provide proper oversight, and then make laws that will impact the district in a way that we can address the issue of unemployment, healthcare, security, and education.
Thank you so much. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on Bridge Radio Africa. This program comes your way Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays on both Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to the page, invite a few friends so that we can together enjoy from Liberia, the diaspora, and its people. If you own a business out there, you want us to create awareness for your business, all you have to do, please contact the marketing department. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll go to Joel and Letty Brooks Rabbits.
Lorenzo, G Grace, Hems vocal, Liberia number 1 vocal, Liberia number 1, right? Okay.
The phrase, "a new sheriff is in town," does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Hems Vodka, Hems Honey, Hems Bitter, and Hems Original Vodka. Hems Vodka has no hangover. That's what they say, Papa drink, Mama happy. Hems Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Hems Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000 979. We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Hems Vodka or www.hensvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hems North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411. Hems Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hems Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you, in my boy, in my blood, every time when I stay on the block.
And that's right, we're back. And at this time, I want to go to Joel Dennett. Joel, what do you have for Cole?
Mr. Cole, welcome. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I just kind of want to understand your thinking, your analytical process when you talk about selecting a leader. You mentioned earlier that you pick parties based on principles and not the personality. So I want to understand, what was your thinking process when you supported George Weah in the beginning? Because from what I understand, the CDC has always been built around the cult, the personality cult that surrounds George Weah. And further, I also want you to kind of tell me what George Weah did as a senator. What did he do for the Liberian people, or even his political party? What did he do that made you think that George Weah would be a good leader? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Well, you got to understand the Liberian political dynamics, and it helps you to appreciate the way decisions are made. We had 12 years of the Unity Party. What that meant is that giving the Unity Party another 6 years could have created a national security race. As you know, there were a lot of agitation at that point. The tension was very high. And from a security angle, we felt that since this gentleman has been crying for this position, perhaps he had some strategy. And so what you saw is a huge population of what we refer to as the downtrodden, who expected a whole lot. And so with the history of George Weah coming out of this slum and getting up to this global recognition, many of us were under the impression, because George Weah during the course of the war, and those individuals who were in refugee camps in the sub-region will attest that the gentleman was always available, providing whatever resources are necessary to support individuals in the different refugee camp, and was always identifying with them. That's a hallmark of leadership. What I expected was George Weah will be able to put that together and identify, or to have people who will also support him in terms of managing the country. And so our decision to support George Weah was primarily based on the history in terms of his affiliation and his support to Liberians across the globe when he was at the peak of his soccer career. Now, the issue of running government, we felt that with this mindset of trying to take care of the Liberian people, that heart of compassion for the people of Liberia, it was something that he could take to the presidency and feel the plight of the people as he moved forward, so that our people actually will get a kind of leadership that cares primarily for them and want to promote their development. But that did not work, as George Weah continued to accommodate friends and all kinds of attachment that were not useful to the political process of Liberia or to the governance process. And so that undermined him entirely and put him in a position wherein people like us are now concerned that the leadership was poor. And at this point, we have taken a position. So the issue of what did we see during his time as a senator? Doing as a senator, again, you have to provide advocacy and all of the rest of the day. And so George Weah, as a president during his senatorial time, did not do much, but that was not really his focus as a president. He was more concentrated on wanting to be president. And he had the people available to support him in that direction. And all of us joined to see what he had to deliver.
Joel, anything else?
Okay, so there are two things, and I will let you go.
Just do one.
Okay, as far as District 4 is concerned, because the statement you just made about George Weah not really doing nothing, it seems more like your decision to support him was guided by fantasies. How can you ensure the people of District 4 that your decisions now are not based on fantasies but grounded on realities?
All right. So again, I would tell you, I've never been in the business of fantasy. And if you will take yourself maybe one day and do a little research of the person that is with you today, you will realize that I'm a realist. Once we enter in the first 2 years of George Weah presidency, it became clear that we were having some trouble. And so I took upon myself as an individual who had always been a friend to Ambassador Weah to intervene, considering the fact that I provide instructional services to different universities, and I was able to listen to the students. And as a local person, I was able to listen to the people, and I could see clearly that the people were uncomfortable and were unhappy. And so I did not fantasize, I was real. And so I raised my issues with the president so that he can take the necessary step to correct those errors, so that his government would not be undermined or the people effort would not be frustrated. And so we did that. So coming to the district representative position, again, is based on reality. We have provided support to our people for a very, very long time, and we have the capacity to provide even more representation for our people. Our records are clear. And so we are approaching this process realistically, not because we feel afraid of someone or not because we feel angry at the ruling establishment, but we feel that our excellency to the district seat will provide us the leverage for us to checkmate some of the issues that are affecting the people of this country. And that's where we are today.
Thank you. Mrs. Lexi Brooks-Roberts.
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Mr. Cole. Welcome to Bridge Radio Africa. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that you cannot see me. I don't know what's happening with my camera, but that happens periodically. I am interested. I was reading the New Republica, and according to that paper, it will come as no surprise to most Liberians that they are getting poorer. The average Liberian now lives on just $570 a year, down from $650 in 2013. According to the World Bank, that makes Liberia among the 10 poorest nations in the world. And also, among the world, I have 3 countries: Germany, Poland, and Liberia. The lawmakers in Germany make $10,000 yearly, a month average, and Poland $4,000, whereas in Liberia it's $15,000. As a man who has had the experience or the opportunity to serve in all these various roles, what will you do to bring down the pay of a lawmaker? And how would you do that?
All right. So for us, I've always said repeatedly that the amount of money that is being paid to lawmakers was just too high. And because it was that high, it made the positions to be extremely attractive to too many people. And I am hoping that the people of Liberia will now identify individuals who do care about Liberia. And so you have like minds in the house, and you have that concerted effort to bring the lawmaker's salary down so that it could be a service job, providing services to the people of Liberia instead of, a jackpot kind of work. Because the more we keep the salary up there, the more you have people inputting all kinds of money in the electoral process simply because they are very confident that they are going to get their returns. But if the job is purely about providing services to the people of Liberia, a lot of people will do their cost benefit analysis and realize that our economically is not viable to invest so much money. That is why the election in Liberia has become extremely expensive, because people, Kennedy's are now taking up the responsibility of the public work ministry, the Ministry of Health, or the Ministry of Education. They are taking upon themselves those responsibility, which should be a national responsibility, and are putting so much money in the political process just to win the minds of the people and sent to that position, primarily because they believe that at that position they will get their returns. For me, I believe that if we can work together and if we can find colleagues at the national legislature, the new breed of representative and senator can be able to work together to ensure that we reduce the salary. At least if the salary is in the tune of $4,000 monthly, that should be something that in Liberia, 4,000 should be able to provide you a decent living as a member of the House of Representatives. And so that is our vision, because the more we keep it up, we will have a lot of people who have no real use for our legislative polity running into the process because they want to get return. I can tell you this, Liberia as a country, we have sufficient for all those who are hungry. The problem is that we do not have enough for those who are greedy. And what you see happening at the national legislature is simply greed. And that's the issue that we need to work together to resolve, so that that office should not be an attractive. Well, you have to be able to work with it. Well, to do the advocacy, first of all, you want to bring that as a discussion to the people. You want the people to join you. At the same time, you need some colleagues of like minds to also join you in the process. So to have that accomplished, the Liberian people themselves will be given the education and to be motivated and take some decision through petitioning to make sure that there be a reduction in the salary of their representative. So look at it, the Liberian people are the employer, so you need to make them to understand that the salary are too high. At the same time, you need to be able to work with some colleagues internally to join you in that fight. Other than that, the fight will not succeed. So the whole idea actually is to mobilize the Liberian people, to making them to understand that the more the salary is high, the more it undermines the actual responsibility and work of the national legislature, and they need to join you so that you can petition the national legislature and demand that those salaries are reduced. So that's one of the way we're going to approach it. And so you should not expect that the entire House or the Senate will join you. But I think the Liberian people can be a force that can resolve such thing.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
I just do a follow up, please. Yeah. So I hear you say you are currently a lecturer. Now, wouldn't you be in? You have a great paying job, considering an average Liberian gets $570 a year, not a month. So why is it that you want to go to the representative to be a representative when you can help educate the younger ones to know their civic duty, to go and petition the lawmakers or the House to say, you're getting paid too much, we need services to the little man. And I just watched a show where children are starving. A child eats just rice, no protein, and you guys are making all this money. How do you guys feel? But we're going to go to another issue after we talk to you regarding the U.S. Embassy report or statement.
All right, so I'm not a lawmaker currently. Like you said, I provide instructional services to the different universities. Being a lawmaker will not take away that responsibility to continue to educate the people of Liberia. I think if you were to follow Liberian situation, this is a country that has little interest in technician and technocrat, and so the way your voice can be heard actually is to be in the political process and influence the decision in the politics of Liberia. No other way around influence decision in this country. You must be in the core of the politics to be able to change things around. And that is why even after years of advocacy, This is not a new thing. If you have to do a little research, you'll realize that I've been one of those individuals who have worked with the United Nations on passing Resolution 1612, Children in Armed Conflict. So we started our advocacy a very long time ago, not just on the local scene, but on the international level. And so for us, we have already done an analysis of the Liberian situation. It is only through a political process that you can be able to change some of the things that you want to see change in this country. Nobody in this country is now listening to the technician and the technocrat. And that is why some of us are constrained. And let me tell you, I'm not one of those people who has always had this great passion for politics. It is time consuming, it is distracting. It has a lot of complication, but for us to be able to make the kind of impact that we believe will change this country, we need to be in the politics and help change this country. And that is why we are in this process.
Well, Mr. Cool, want to say thanks. Time has caught up with us. We allocated 1 hour for you. We are going to jump into something else. But before we leave, we need to ask you for your closing statement. Just before we take leave for you tonight.
Thank you, Ashford, and thank you everyone for participating in the show today. We come from a background of advocacy, and like I told you, we have demonstrated that throughout the different areas that we have worked. And coming to politics is not something that we celebrate, but we have to join the political process because we feel constrained to intervene in the chaos that is happening in the country so that we can help change the course of action. I'm on the ground. I see the economic condition. I'm confronted with it every day. I see people in front of my house that I have to help personally. And so it's a very complicated situation that we have on the ground. I think, again, if we sit and say, oh, politics is not for all of us, what you have actually, like they said, if wise people refuse to make decisions, they must live by the mercy of the fool. What you have here in Liberia, we need to all join in the Liberian political process to change the course of action, regardless of your professional career, regardless of your expertise. Nothing is going to change if you sit on the sideline. Only politics can change this country because this country does not recognize the technicians or the professional. So I'm encouraging all of you, especially those in the diaspora, to join the political process so that we change course. Because this country, if we do nothing and sit and watch, I can tell you the result will be a catastrophe of monumental proportion. So I want to thank all of you for the participation, and I'm more than willing in the future to avail myself whenever you need my participation. We did not talk much on the security situation in the country. Most of the conversation concentrated more on my district representative intention. So I will hope in the future we can look at the security sector and do an analysis step by step and see where we are with respect to our national security as we move to elections. So thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thank you, sir. And you enjoyed the rest of the night. It was nice having you on as well.
Thank you for being here.
Okay. Well, folks, again, we're back, and we're going to extend the time tonight. I'm pretty sure Pastor Adi will put at a smiling face because we're going to dive into something else. Let us just jump into it. The U.S. Ambassador opening letter of assessment on his tour to the counties of Liberia, and he's on record not to say he can boast of visiting Liberia and not just Montserrado, so he's bringing something back to the United States, to the Congress, that he has visited the entire country, the 15 political subdivisions. In his letter, he says some things that we all need to be concerned about. Let me begin with the Reverend Idatus Adi.
Well, Ashma, I'm not quite frankly surprised at the ambassador's comments. It's just another damning indictment of, of this government and the kleptocracy we find ourselves trying to change, through our advocacy, be it by platform or in other means, helping Liberians who are disadvantaged. But the ambassador is quite correct. Governance is not just Monrovia, it's all over. And shockingly enough, he's gotten to discover that much of what was proposed in the budget allocated for those different hospitals in the different counties have never reached them. A replica of what happened in Margibi, the 800,000 for which the U.S. government has sent auditors to kind of inquire what happened to their money. So this is just nothing new, quite frankly, but an amplification of what is happening in Liberia in the context of corruption or embezzlement by brothers and sisters that the people have trusted.
If that use $5,000 to $15,000, that's a lot of money. Why are they going into money that was allocated for the health? I mean, come on. You allocated $100,000, to the various hospitals, and not a dime was used to that for that purpose.
It is the lack of vision. Our brother stated here that you don't have enough for greedy people, but there are many hungry people. Our guest that just left. Unfortunately, this is quite a consequential result of a visionless government, and a government that doesn't really care about the welfare of the Liberian people, failing to recognize that a healthy nation brings great human resource and innovation for development. But unfortunately, when the government is unable to bring foreign investments to Liberia, we're practicing the economy of dig hole, cover hole. When you make enough noise, it will take money and take it there for you.
If you can't give the people as little as $100,000, and the United States government is about to dish in $40 million, where the Liberian government will have to, on an annual basis, contribute $3 to $4 million.
$3 to $4 million.
$3 to $4 million. If you cannot give the people the $100,000 that's needed, how will you do that?
When I read that ambassador's comments and I heard $3 to $4 million when NEC has not even gotten substantial amount of money to facilitate elections. Mark Gibby, 800,000 was eating at the hospital, which they claim they give to them. We just got to keep our fingers crossed and pray for a new trajectory that will bring a wholesome functioning society to the Liberian people. By virtue of all of the evidence around kleptocracy and kakistocracy, we will not be able to see this government supporting adequately in the absence of foreign investments, our clinics, our hospitals, or JFK, which is right in the city.
Dr. Fitz, do you agree? Just simply lack of vision?
No, I think it extends beyond just lack of vision. If you do a holistic analysis of what's happening in Liberia, you will see that something similar that's happening in a number of countries across Africa. In other words, there was a Cold War, right? And then United States government put pressure on a number of African countries to democratize. At some point, it was the standard to receive U.S. assistance. You have to democratize. So now you have a democracy that was basically driven by the West United States, so to speak. What it means then is that the United States has a stake in making sure that a democracy thrives, that it is functional. I have not seen a democracy that functions well without accountability. Mind you, in Liberia, when people talk about democracy, they only think of democracy in terms of electoral politics. That is a notion that needs to be dispelled in the country, because once that notion is dispelled, you now cannot take $10,000 and say that's a salary. You cannot then allocate $110,000 for clinic activities in your county and then take the money and eat it. Because why? You know very well that you are accountable. Accountability means that people take responsibility in terms of serving prison time or trying to return the money that was stolen. Okay? So if you don't have all of these things enshrined in terms of how people are governing the country, then of course you have the kind of results that you have. The U.S. ambassador didn't need to tour all 15 counties or whatever to have known these facts. He knows these facts. Okay, the question is, what has been done by those stakeholders that thought that it was important that Liberia become a democracy? Are they satisfied that Liberia continues to remain a pseudo-democracy? In other words, a nation that has only electoral politics and is breeding leaders that are not accountable to the people. Just the other day when Mr. Weah came from the States And the journalist asked Mr. Weah why he went to the States. He said he didn't think he needed to answer because he's the president, not knowing he became president only because he was elected by the people. So people don't seem to understand this whole thing about how they are existing. And until that can be addressed, you will continue to have these kind of problems that you have.
Joel, do these people love Liberia, or it is just about themselves? They come and say, "I want to get into office," and when you finally give them the chance, they start to do things on the ordinary. Like, it's all about me, myself, and I to help with the people. You mean something as important as healthcare? People are dying, from curable diseases, and these guys, money allocated for the people, it won't reach them to use it for their own selfish gain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm furious that the opposition in Liberia right now is relying on the ambassador to do their job. Where's the opposition? The ambassador have given them so much information, so much weapon to use against this. Why are we not even hearing from them? Where's the opposition here? I mean, $100,000, that's not a lot of money, to be frank with you. There are people in America that's probably walking around in their socks, $100,000 in their shoes. It's not a lot of money. So that is pure wickedness. That one is they only allocated $100,000. And I would quite frankly like to know how many hospitals are there in these counties that they're just allocating $100,000 for, and then not giving them that money. But like I said, where is the opposition? Where is Boycott? Where is Cummings? Why are they? I mean, I read that statement today. That statement seems to be something the opposition should have been already jumping on. There's so much meat in the ambassador's statement.
Letty, where's the leadership? Where's the love for country?
That's the question, Mr. Garley. It just saddens me. I watched, like I said, the very government in Lena Panorama with Kwame Weeks. Before this report came out, that was one day, this weekend, I sat in my bed and I was torn. Should I contribute? Should I not contribute? Like, who gets this money, and how? Even though he announced it, some of the money that he's giving to the parents, but after the show is over, when I'm dealing with a government that's unaccountable, and with all due respect to Kwame Weeks, I'm not saying he does it, but it just gives you that uncertainty. Like, I want to help somebody, total stranger, but I have to go through someone else. And here we have a government who has access to money, and they do nothing but help themselves. I think it's lack of leadership, lack of vision, wickedness, cronyism, and just all of the negatives that you can think of. As Dr. Fitz said, when given the chance to lead, with Black people lead themselves, it just shows that. I heard a lady speak on this issue, that if this president, who they say has the country at heart, is treating these people, his selected few of people that enjoy, say, "Oh, the country is great. The country is great." But the people, I mean, oh, Mr. Garley, I'm really depressed. I'm sorry. When I see the people of Liberia, like I said, I come from humble beginnings, but that's like 30 years ago I left Liberia. And this is still happening in the city where the president drives daily, not to mention the interior parts of the country. It just tells these people are wicked.
Stanik Idatus, he said, one center said they never had the opportunity or never had the resources to print out marriage certificate because the printer broke, and the money that was supposed to be allocated for them, the last time they received that money was 5 years ago. Can you imagine, Stanley?
But Liberians aren't unaware of this truth. For the X number of people that live in Monrovia, have been to different clinics, unless you have money, you can't get good health care. I listened to Magdala Cooper when she went to visit one of the opposition leaders. I think it was Yeke Koloba. I stand corrected. But whilst at his place, she said the country is heading in the wrong direction. For example, healthcare. She said, right now at JFK, I'm about to go there and pay some people fees so that they can get their babies out of a government hospital. That's her statement. I'm going to pay for some mothers to be able to get their child out of the hospital, which is a government hospital. So Liberians are quite aware of this reality. Unless you have money to go to a private hospital in Liberia, you are deprived. When in fact, healthcare is a fundamental right. Does this government care? Do they have the competence? Do they have the resources? No. Do they care as to whether or not people are able to live healthy? No. The ambassador thanked the dedicated workers who selflessly gave their lives and their efforts to ensure that people get treated. How are they getting treated? With what? What are the medications? Where are they coming from? But at the same time, our president spends 48 days and millions of dollars to sustain his trips, 11 days. Or better yet, his wife has, a budget of about $2 million. That was increased in this budget. Not only that, but the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs budget increased from $10 million to $20 million. But what happened to healthcare? What is their investment? They put beautifully on the paper that they're investing in healthcare. They're doing this and doing that, all on paper. Nothing's reaching the people.
And Dr. Fish, in addition to what you just said, people go to the hospital, especially JFK. You are hospitalized there. You get treated. You are well, but you are held hostage because you owe hospital bill. They won't let you go. And then when you see people of substance, people that go to visit, they say, you please help also. We're not sick, we're well, but we ain't get money. So the people holding us here in jail until we can pay the money before they release us.
And the thing is, just to add to what Reverend Datus was talking, this is something I talk about night after night every time I'm on this program. That's the importance of a nation that has jobs. Okay, because if you have jobs, this is why every time they put pictures with street lights and tar roads, be like, oh, there's development. No. Development is creating job opportunities for the people so that the people are not beggars in their own country. Why would you say you're poor? Even though you're poor, but you're buying rice from another country to feed your people. What is that? Why can't you open factories? It's not that Liberians cannot farm. Liberian farmers are there, but Liberian farmers could be incentivized if you had factories so that they can sell the bushels of rice to those factories that would now then produce rice in Liberia and sell to Liberia. What it does, it doesn't only just increase the currency, it also significantly reduce unemployment in the country. That's not rocket science. And then people will say, we don't know. No, if you can get iPhone 14, which is a 21st century technology, there is no reason you don't need a Chinese government. You have Chinese factories. The different factories that manufacture all of these things that can be purchased, put in Liberia, create jobs for people. So that when people are empowered, people will even create their own hospitals. When people are empowered, they will even create their own schools. When people are empowered, they will even create their own feeder roads. Okay, so it's just about being able to empower the people. But because they are not doing that, and the system is set up in such a way that these people are not being held accountable, then you have to ask yourself, looking at the colonial legacy, what do I mean by that? When the Western countries left Africa, they left a system of coercion in place. Police, army, and the rest of it, so that the ordinary citizens can't do anything. That system of coercion is still there. The American government, fully understanding that system of coercion is also present in Liberia, needs to understand, needs to play a more active role in trying to ensure that democracy in Liberia is functional. Otherwise, we're looking at Sudan. We're looking at being another Somalia. This is no joke, and people still taking this thing for a joke. It's bad. And for just, it's all we keep hearing, oh, this is the, okay, we know. What's the solution? Stop telling us that there's a problem. Mr. Ambassador, we already knew that there was a problem. Tell us what is the solution. What are stakeholders willing to do to make sure that what they've said is implemented to the letter, so that we don't continue to have these things? It's not rocket science.
And Joel, I mean, supporters of President Weah are saying that he's doing such an awesome job, despite the massive suffering in the country. I mean, people are dying from curable diseases. People go to hospitals. I mean, they are treated well, but then they can't leave the hospital because the old hospital bill. And then when you listen to the other side, the people say the president is doing extremely well. The opposition sit down and say nothing. And where are we headed?
The gap between the fantasy and reality is too wide. In the CDC, on the CDC side, it's too wide. And I think as that gap gets smaller, people will try to understand. But I don't think it's the ambassador. This ambassador has been one of the most outspoken ambassador that I've known in my lifetime. I mean, he's pretty much has given a lot of ammunition to the opposition.
And he's the guy that will go with you and wine and dine with you, play basketball with the president, but then he comes back and say it straight to you.
I only wish he was staying a little bit longer, because I don't think it's his job to tell Liberia how to solve the problem, but he is creating obstacles and limiting the Weah government from becoming more powerful and more entrenched. And I'll give you an example. When he put the sanctions on the pseudo president of Liberia, which was Nathaniel McGill at the time, he weakened George Weah, and that should have helped the opposition. But the fact that the opposition is still sitting down in Liberia and being deafening silence, I mean, that's an outrage. This is their job. They should not just be running just to oppose George Weah because of who he is. They should oppose him because of his terrible and offensive leadership. Okay, so at this point, I mean, like Dr. Fizz said, Sudan is the tip of the iceberg. We know what happened in Africa back in the 70s and 80s when the USSR and the CIA was helping to arm all the different forces in Africa and causing trouble. USA and Russia is at it again. Okay, we need to be very careful here. Thank you.
Okay, well, we want to go to Lighty. Following Lighty, we're going to go to the telephone line. Following Letitia, the number to call is 267-248-5295. That's the number to call. Let you come in, and then after you want to go to the telephone line. Go ahead. Mrs. Roberts, please unmute the phone. Okay. I think she basically doing something. Let her go to the telephone line. 763 number. Tell us your name, please.
How you doing, Mr. Garley? This is Elvis calling from Minnesota.
Hey, Elvis, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good. And hello to your panelists. Quickly, I just want to point out, the criticism to the government is apt. I think it's appropriate. But I think who we should hold more accountable are the representatives that the people elect to represent them, especially those who are in the oversight committee and who have position on oversight. Their job is a very, very, important job when it comes to the governance of our country. They have oversight over these different ministries to make sure that the appropriate monies are being used on what they were appropriated for. So if these, if those representatives and senators who are on the oversight committees are not checking to make sure that these monies are being used for the appropriate purpose, then they're not doing their jobs. So definitely there are bad apples in every government. There are corrupt people in every government. We saw it during Ellen time, people coming from America getting paid $20,000 a month. So people being overpaid in Liberia is not just from George Weah government. It's been from successive government passed, throughout the years. So for me, I'll blame the legislators who are not taking their duty, their responsibility on oversight seriously. to really hold these, government entities and ministries, to hold their feet to the fire when it comes to misappropriating funds and not doing a good enough job in, rendering service to the Liberian people. President can't do everything.
Thank
and,
you.
That's why we elect their representatives to
Thank
check and balance this government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is, as we look for more callers to call in, do you agree with what Elvis said?
Well, I certainly agree with what Elvis said to an extent. He's absolutely correct that the legislature also should be held accountable because they represent the people. The ambassador was quite correct. He said from the information he gathered, it appears that there seems to be a syndicate between the planning, healthcare, and the legislature. We understand the government is responsible for implementing government's policies and executing the law and ensuring that the people benefit from the resources. Unfortunately, that the legislatures who are representing those counties should be able to be asking the right questions concerning the benefits that were allocated in the budget. And if the counties or hospitals are not receiving it, they're supposed to be able to put some pressure on. But then again, the health ministry, who's responsible to ensure that our hospitals are adequately serviced. What are they doing about that? Where is the health minister's role? Knowing that, the oversight responsibility of her ministry is to ensure that the public facilities that are healthcare meet the needs and, the needs of the people. That is not happening. Where is the planning ministry? That is also supposed to be responsible to make sure that money is reaching the people because they've planned for it. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. So the ambassador described that triangle more as a syndicate, which is quite correct.
Yeah, I agree with disagree with a number of things that have been said. First thing first, let's correct the record. When people were getting $20,000 during the alien administration from the states, they did so because there was something called a GMAP program that was structured during the time of Judy Bryant. I think I talked about this the very first time I got on this program. It was structured to get expatriates to come into Liberia to help fix the country just after the war. And some of us that were in the positions to help articulate the view that would help give that policy or direction. People like me, I articulated that instead of having expatriates, let's have Liberians come in and get that money so that they would then use it to fix their own country. But unfortunately, these people came from the States and used the money to pay student loans and all those things that didn't make any sense. So just for your education and correction. Two, as far as that this whole thing about what the U.S. ambassador says, let's go to politics 101. Okay, look at the different institutions of government. What is the responsibility of the executive? It's the enforcement. Okay, so if you have the law that says that money is supposed to go to this area and is supposed to be used, there's an institution, as far as the government structure is concerned, that is responsible to make sure that that money is used. And if that money is not used, there should be persecution. You see, so the ambassador, if you watch his statement, he stops short when it comes to apportioning blame. I don't know whether it's some kind of diplomatic technique or whatever, but to say that, oh, yeah, you can hold, if the legislature did not make laws, then of course you say, okay, fine, they did not make laws. But the executive, which is responsible to enforce those laws, can be held 75% responsible for the ills that continue to exist in the society. Because why? These laws are created, but they need to be enforced. You have dirt all in the country. You have laws that are created to clean dirt, but they need to be enforced. So most of the ills that we continue to see in Liberia, whether it's about money not going to hospitals or people not getting jobs and the rest of it, is because of the failure of the executive branch of government that is headed by the president, the current guy that was elected, Mr. George Weah. It's just that simple. This is a failed pseudo-democracy.
Thank you. Joel?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Fisk. I think when it comes to holding this government responsible, it's going to have to be done at the ballot box, because we can't just keep complaining, yelling, and screaming and kicking. And at the end of the day, if we re-elect George Weah, we deserve it. Liberia deserve to be suffered. They deserve to be treated as, as people who just don't deserve any better. If you keep going after somebody in a relationship that's abusive to you, day after day they're abusing you, and you keep going back to that person, you deserve that. So at the end of the day, the U.S. ambassador is giving the Liberian people all the information that they need. If they go back and vote in George Weah, then I'm sorry, we have a failed country, we have a failed state, and we're in a lot of trouble.
Mrs. Roberts. Okay, Mrs. Roberts seems to be having problem with her device. Again, we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about Joseph Boycott and his running mate. We have the VP. The question is, how influential is the VP that has gotten so much attention at this time? What about the vision? So we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned.
So, G-Grace. Hems vocal, Liberia number one vocal, Liberia number one, right? Okay.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Hems Vodka, Hems Honey, Hems Bitter, and Hems Original Vodka. Hems Vodka has no hangover. That's what they say, Papa drank, Mama happy. Hems Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Hems Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000 We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Hems Vodka or www.hensvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hems North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411. Hems Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hems Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you, in my boy, in my blood. Every time when I stay on the block, everybody knows it. We are spot. And forgot that no more.
And that's where we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, the VP position now has taken taking a toll now, and in the country, everybody's talking about Honorable Boycott's running mate. And the question here now is, how influential is the VP that has gotten so much attention at this time? And again, what about the vision? And folks, I'm telling you, let us dive into this for the next few minutes, beginning with Pastor Addy.
Well, actually, to be very clear, I just want to make one correction. The opposition has been very vocal on the ills within this government, from health to education, among several other things. Opposition is not responsible to build hospitals and build schools, but you can voice out, you can advocate, and that's what they've been doing. Joseph Boyka spoke on an international platform some 4 months ago when he was asked about his vision for Liberia, and he made it very clear that this country has retrogressed. Liberia has retrogressed, and that is the truth. Education, health, we've retrogressed. But when people talk about advocacy, do they want, Honorable Boyka, Gonglu, Cummings, like Della Cooper, Dr. Moniba to stage a demonstration to bring this government down? Or do we get people in the street and start holding placards? You must fix healthcare.
From Liberia all around, in supermarket store and everywhere.
Sorry for that.
No problem. So they've spoken very loudly concerning these challenges in our society. Liberians are quite aware about the ills, and it is their choice to kind of make a decision on whether or not to allow this government 6 more years or change the trajectory. On the issue of the vice presidential pick, like I've often stated, Honorable Boyka has to make that decision for himself. And the reason why that is so important, unlike the Constitution that says, the vice president serves to the pleasure of the president, And it's in fact a ceremonial title. That's why Mr. Cummings doesn't want to be a vice president, and that is why Honorable Boyka stated he was parked, even though he could do more considering his experience and expertise in government. So it's highly crucial that anyone who selects a vice president, we're definitely looking forward to him hitting the ground running to lead Liberia to higher heights.
Why are people so concerned about President former Vice President Boycott's running mate? And you heard former Vice President Boycott clearly stated that he wants to come for under one term. Why are people so concerned?
Well, it is very clear that Liberians are very much interested in the trajectory of the country from mediocrity to higher heights. And so selecting the VP for Honorable Boyka, who happens to be the front runner by all indications. People want to see who will take over next because of the statement that he only wants to do one term. So it's highly crucial that whoever he selects will definitely be a representative of his vision, arrest, agriculture, road, education, sanitation, and tourism that embodies the dreams and aspirations of the young and old.
Prince Johnson endorsed former Vice President Boyka a few days ago. Do you think his intentions are good? He said he supported George Weah, and they are determined, according to him, to support Joseph Numa Boyka. At the last hour, at the 11th hour, when it's time to make that call, we clearly heard President Weah that he was going to protect Ellen Johnson and her family. When he took over, he said that he doesn't believe there should be a war crime code. The people should go under the Palava hut to solve Liberian problem. On the other hand, Ambassador Boyka is on record saying that they will go after people, in terms of those who embezzled money, those who are supposed to face charges for things they did to the country. Do you believe that Prince Johnson will stand by his word in support for Ambassador Boyka?
Well, Ashva, I'm certainly not a political prognosticator, but the fact remains that Prince Johnson has made a decision or made a statement with respect to his commitment. That remains to be seen. Politics do make strange bedfellows, people who are sometimes changing because of political interest. But that being said, Honorable Boyka is highly resolute about bringing the War Crime Code and having Liberians defend themselves under a transparency of justice, something that we all deserve.
Okay, let us go to Dr. Fisk.
Can you hear me?
Dr. Fisk, please.
Yeah. So what's the question?
The question is, attention is not geared towards the running mate of Ambassador Boyka, the former vice president, and why the idea of his running mate is getting so much traction.
Well, the thing is, shouldn't it be obvious to you? Mr. Boyka is 78 years old. By the time the first term is over, he should be 84. Okay, so, and I mean that's not a, so to speak, healthy age. It's one of the reasons why even Joe Biden is having problems with his prospects for re-election in the United States. The number of Democrats are not necessarily enthused only because of the age factor. Okay, so that is why the whole thing about vice president becomes very significant, because that person in actual sense is a de facto president of Liberia. So you have to be very careful who you select for that position. But even if, with the help of God, Mr. Boyka having to live way beyond 84 years old, we have to understand that the vice presidential position is not necessarily as ceremonial as Mr. Boyka and others try to make it to seem as, because we know that the vice president, I think he's the president of the Senate or something like that, and the Senate is an important arm of the legislature, so it's not something that needs to be overlooked. Now, even if the president does not delegate responsibility to you, and the president has a number of prerogatives and responsibilities to do, okay, the vice president, okay, can be assigned a role, okay, can be delegated some responsibility to implement. Sometimes even if the president doesn't come out directly, you can make a request and be like, okay, fine. Because mind you now, a number of laws you supervise a number of laws that affect how the country run. Okay. So I don't think it is politically feasible to say, oh well, this position is just in nomenclature, and therefore I was parked for the last so and so 4 years, and I was just drawing free check. It doesn't sound good. Okay, it's just the same thing of accountability. You can't come and say for the last 12 years I was just drawing check, because that's what it amounts to. And then you come back and say, okay, even though I was just drawing check, now I'm about to do serious work for the people. And as far as this whole thing about going to do accountability, okay, is Boaka going to go and audit Boaka? Because if Boaka is saying that, okay, well, now I'm going to audit George Weah, then of course it has to extend to his own government, and by person Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and possibly beyond that. So what would be the statute of limitation for Mr. Boaka's own decision to go ahead and audit? And lastly, when it comes to this war crimes court, like I said the other day, politics is quid pro quo. Scratch my back, I scratch your back. Mr. Prince Johnson endorsed Mr. Boaka for a reason. Okay, Prince Johnson is a tactician. He's a military tactician. Otherwise, he would not have fought a successful war in Liberia, and is on record for dethrooning an entire elected president in Liberia. So this guy knows exactly what he's doing. He's the godfather in Nima County. So when this guy is giving his endorsement to Joseph Boaka, I was not in the room to know what was traded. But I don't think, politics being what it is, it was for nothing.
But Prince Johnson frowns all the time when he hears about war crimes court.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of this,
George Weah assured him a few years ago, and that's one of the reasons why he supported George Weah.
Exactly. So he knew very well that George Weah had all of these shortcomings. He still led through his support behind George Weah, speculatively speaking, because George Weah was not going to endorse any war crimes court, right? So now he has now relinquished his support for George Weah and is now throwing his full weight behind Joseph Boaka. Are we to naively believe that he did that for nothing? He's not getting anything in return? I don't think so. So the primary interest of Joseph Boaka is to be president. The primary interest of Prince Johnson is not to go before any war crimes court. That's the point of intersection between these two individuals. Are we saying that those intersections did not meet in a significant meeting that led to the endorsement of Mr. Boaka by Mr. Johnson? Can we say that? I don't think so.
Well, Joel, do you still believe that the vice president role is ceremonial as it relates to Ambassador Boyka now? People for the first time, I stand corrected, people are all lobbying this is the first time when you see people trying to lobby for the VP position as if it's something that is electable. What do you make of this?
I think when you look at the candidates, both from the ANC and the UP, there is no real ideological differences between those two groups. The only real difference is the age of the candidates. So I think a lot of and the reason that the VP position seems so quote unquote sexy now is one, Joseph Boakai is an old man. So in a relatively short time, whoever is VP could assume the presidency. And I think a lot of people are just hoping that you could combine ANC and UP under one political marriage and make them one party. And that will, because without that, the position of VP could be political suicide, depending on who Ambassador VP Boyka picks. It could be political suicide. So I think the Liberian people are hoping that in order to stage a good battle for CDC, you have to pick the right VP. Tomorrow, if Joseph Boycott does not pick ANC, this whole obsession with who his VP will be, it will just end. It will be completely finished. It will unravel.
Mrs. Roberts, please unmute your device. Mrs. Roberts?
Can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
What's the question? I had given up. I thought I couldn't hear me.
Well, we're still talking about the VP position. We're talking about Ambassador Boycott's running mate. This position has become so sexy, in the words of Joel Dennett.
Sexy? Yeah, but it's so sexy that the current VP is going around giving out pass in the when she knows it's time for election. All of the things that are going on health-wise, she has nothing to say. So as the Constitution says, the VP is just ceremonious. They just sit there at the will and pleasure, just presiding over the Senate. They can't even say much unless the senators allow them to speak. So I don't know what's the big deal with this VP pick. The thing is, we all know that they don't have much say, and as Pastor Dr. said, that's why neither of them want it, because they both know. So why would you want your friend? You've already served in that position. You know you do nothing. The person wants to be make a difference. So no, let them both vie for the position, and those who want to be in a VP seat because of opportunities, let them go ahead and take it. But I don't think it's a big deal. Based on what we have seen, I think they should even eliminate that position.
Pastor added, some people have come out and they continue to talk about the age of former Vice President Boycott. If he knows that he has problem with the age, he wouldn't be contesting in the first place. Why people act? I mean, and others who support Boycott find this somehow offensive.
I personally do not find that offensive. I think it's politics, and people are allowed to challenge the age of Mr. Boycott. But in fact, in spite of all of that, he is still standing. He's visited Grand Bassa County. His health is reported to be clear when he came to these United States, as well as the time he was in the hospital and came out. Sickness or illness or health issues are no respect of age. The fact remains very clear, ladies and gentlemen, that Joseph Boycott is just going to be one of the 9th president, or one of the many presidents of age that are in this world today leading the government. But the real truth is, it's not about the age, it's about the vision that leaves a legacy. Now, please tell me, what has age got to do with this vision? Agriculture, self-sufficiency, construction of roads, education, healthcare, tourism, sanitation.
The ideas are there, but does he have the energy? The ideas are there, Idatus. Does he have the energy? Will he be able to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning when that call is made?
So that question speculates as to whether or not somebody who is in the 80s will have the energy to get up. But there are several human beings around the world. There are 9 oldest presidents in the world today: Joe Biden, Perulas, or Jacques Hoy. All of these people, Paul Biya, they wake up in the morning and they go to work. It's about the vision that leaves a legacy for this generation that has dreams and aspirations of having an opportunity in their own country compared to those who don't have it now under this leadership. So one will politically make age an issue, but it's about the vision. And if the vision is working or encapsulates or captures the dreams and visions of the young generation, such as us, we will definitely not worry about the age. It's not about the energy. It's the vision that leaves the legacy that builds lives and gives us opportunity to make a difference in our country. And Joseph Boycott happens to be that.
I'm pretty sure that the face will see it differently.
Pardon me? Pardon me?
He's actually
I didn't hear you, ASHFORD. You want to say something? I didn't hear you.
Actually saying that he showed that I would see it differently. And I actually do.
Oh, obviously. All of us definitely see it differently.
Come in, Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, and I actually do, because the thing is, the older you get, there's risk factor for a number of diseases. Okay, hypertension. Okay,
Dementia,
high cholesterol, and the rest of it. Okay, stroke.
Alzheimer's, and dementia.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Okay, there's a higher risk factor for those diseases. Okay, and we've not seen a comprehensive health report, and that's tend to be corrected, of Mr. Boakai. Okay, his constant sleeping and lack of focus. Okay, it's not necessarily an age thing, because somebody who has poor health can also demonstrate those same things that you see Mr. Boakai demonstrating, where he's at a major function and then he's sleeping. Okay, so it's not necessarily about age. Okay, what we are looking at is, because of the age, his ability to be functioning on all cylinders. That is what I don't think is one of the reasons why, like I said, Joe Biden has these problems in this country, because sometimes Joe Biden is talking and then he goes off script and start to talk something completely different. People try to challenge his cognitive abilities and the rest of it. Okay, because not necessarily about it. So one thing I can tell you, okay, with the kind of experience I've had in government, where you have all of the ministers that are clamoring for something called your guidance as a chief executive of a country. You don't want someone who is lacking because of some kind of pathophysiological
I mean, when you say his constant sleeping,
problem. Yeah.
how true is that statement? Because there are times where Ambassador Booker will show other places where he would be there for 2-3 hours and he's alert. It could be because of the way his eyes look.
Look, I can tell you something. In area that I currently function, I interact with colleagues, and they tell me, quite frankly, be like, because I work 12-hour shifts, seeing patients back to back, right? So I have some colleagues who would tell me, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I used to stay up and I would still be alert, but right now I cannot do the same thing. It's because of age. Okay, so they don't have that same focus, that same cognitive strength. Okay, so the more age is a risk factor that you basically cannot say, okay, let's ignore it. No, you cannot. Okay, exercise and all those other things are also important. Well, a young person may not necessarily exercise as an older person, but still have good health. It's because of the age, because your metabolism starts to slow down after 40 years old, 35, 40. Okay, so we can't say, oh, let's just ignore these things. Okay, your testosterone levels start to significantly drop after 30s. When with low testosterone, which is natural for extremely older people, what do you have? The lack of focus and concentration. So these are things we are talking about. So you have to be cognizant of these things. You have to appreciate them. You can't say, oh, let's just forget about them. So that is why this whole thing, this is why the VP suite looks very, in the words of Mr. Dennis, look very sexy, because whoever is VP is a de facto president of Liberia. So you have to ask yourself, does this person have what it takes to be president on day one? George Weah is a placeholder. Nobody should make any mistake about that. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's just there. Knee-jerk reaction. Okay, let Bill roll. Okay, let's go fix the Pico Island. Oh, let my wife fix something. Instead of building factories, she's going to build a big institution for handouts and the rest of it. Okay, so we don't want that. If we say as Liberians that we have problem with that, we want to change it. Let's make sure that if Mr. Boakai is choosing someone to be his vice president, is someone who has a full understanding of the depth of the problem that's facing Liberia. And I think the most significant that's facing Liberia is a lack of job opportunities and the creation of factories in Liberia to produce for Liberians.
Thank you. Joel?
Look, I'm not in agreement with Pastor Attitude, and to be quite frank, since this show started tonight, I think Pastor Addy is far younger than Joseph Boyka, but he's been looking like he's been falling asleep a few times to not even show as well. Okay. So look, I'm younger. I'm way younger than Joseph Boyka. But I know at my age right now, when I get up in the morning, I gotta warm up in my bed for maybe 15, 20 minutes before I can even get out of the bed. So I can't imagine, Ambassador Boyka having that type of energy. Look, the main people that the VP will have to galvanize and energize in this country are the youth, the under 31, and there's a lot of them. I don't see how he will be able to connect with that group. Okay, I mean, this is the social media generation. He has yet to galvanize that group. And my fear for him is, when he becomes president, he will not be effective. We already have a president in Liberia that is very silent. I don't want to have another uninspiring figure standing there and can't speak, can't talk. I want to be able to connect with that person. I'll leave it at that.
Mrs. Robert.
Ashford. Oh, sorry.
Let us hear from Mrs. Robert, then you can come in, the others. Mrs. Robert, please unmute your device and come in.
I regarding the VP, I feel that at this point he should help to be the voice of this country. He has served in the capacity and knows what is required for a country. He knows that he has seen how the budget process works and all those good things, and he sees that these monies are not being allocated to the appropriate needs. I feel he should be a voice. Stay behind someone else and be a voice for the country. And he has his pension. If he's not getting it, maybe they can give him a little extra. But he knows, if he so knows the in and out and wants to stand for this country, how come we don't hear him talk on these issues? Here's a perfect example here with this statement the ambassador made. What does he do? Nothing. I'm not concerned about his age at this point. I feel they call him a statesman. He's a well-rounded man. He has served. He understands or knows some things about the government. That is true. But he needs to speak. He has not spoken on anything except for one or two interviews where he's gentle and being diplomatic. When you hear everybody else, the young people, the people that actually living in Liberia, you hear them talk about the country going backwards, 100 years. And all these people are the issue is just to be the president? No. Go about the little people. Talk for the little people. Speak to the people that matter. He can even host a forum talking to the legislature, saying his arms are free now. It's not how they were tied when he was parked. But he doesn't do that.
We already have a president that is silent. He doesn't talk to the people. Yet we are now with former Vice President Boyka, who a lot of people think will deliver this country. But others are on the other hand saying age is a factor, and that's just the reality. What say you?
So Ashford, I'm certainly stuck on the fact that opposition have not spoken against these ills, but I've been following Liberian politics. Councillor Gonglo said that Liberia is in the ICU. What was he talking about? He was talking about the healthcare issues, the education, among several things. I listened to Dr. Madiba. He also spoke about the ills of Liberia to include healthcare, poverty, education, among several other things. I listened to Mr. Alexander Cummings. He spoke about the ills of Liberia pertaining to healthcare and several other issues. Now, the issue of age is, in fact, a political discrimination, why it may seem to be a reality. But Mr. Boyka possessed a vision. And that is why the detractors of his incumbency are using age as a political propaganda against his incumbency. But the truth remains that I was in Philadelphia I went to a town hall and I listened to Mr. Boyka speak to us for 3 hours on his feet, responding to questions. I specifically went there to investigate this issue about his lack of physique to do things. And it's rather unfortunate that he surprised a lot of people. He disappointed many people because he stood for 3 hours in that town hall meeting and he took questions. And what was also fortunate for me when I attended his fundraiser, I sat very close to him to see whether or not he will sleep. He did not sleep. He was up for the rest of the night and he got up and spoke eloquently. So in the discharge of his duties, Liberians can rest assured that Rescue One will not sleep on them. In fact, he stated that he was a parkour, that many opposition took and manipulated the statement because he knows that he possesses the experience, he has the expertise to rescue Liberia from this government of kleptocracy and kakistocracy. The truth remains, Liberians have to rest assured that illness is of no respect to any person. Peace be to the ashes of our dear brother and political aspirant, Dr. Cassell, a young man who was energetic, healthy, and he suddenly passed. You know, not one candidate in the race have presented their medical records other than Joseph Boyka and his transparency. Every time he went to the hospital, the whole world knew. But not one candidate that we want to trust, who's supposed to be younger than Joseph Boyka, has ever told the Liberian people their health record. So, what is the guarantee? It's a lot of mischaracterization, speculations. He will not get up. We are scared he may not get up. But that's not true. We don't know whether Mr. Boyka exercises regularly. That helps to reduce cognitive decline that you guys are speculating. Go look at the research medically. Tell you that exercise helps. Who knows what he's doing? He speaks eloquently. He addresses issues. He's been critical, like all of the other candidates in the race.
Well, folks, if you just joining us, this is Ashford Got It Live, and we're on here Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. We will be back again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. It seems like time has caught up with us again, but just before we go, we're going to go around the room and get our closing statement from each of you guys here tonight before we call this a night. Let us begin with Dr. Fisk.
Yeah,
You
the
can,
only
you
thing.
you can respond to Idatu's statement and then close out in about 60 seconds.
I mean, the thing is, independent of whether Mr. Boyka wants to be president or not, by the time you've reached a certain age range, okay, you have to understand that you have risk factor for a number of things. That's just a fact, medically proven. There's so many research that you look at that speaks to that. So there's no need to belabor that point. So as I wrap up, I will say this, okay? Leadership is not about nomenclature. Leadership is not about limiting yourself to your statutory responsibility. Leadership is about articulating your ideas and getting people to work along with you to get it done in the interest of other people. I say this to say that when the speaker, our guest, he talked about, oh, these are the things that lead to corruption. No, if you corrupt, then you corrupt. But if you are a leader, you can mobilize people to get things done. It doesn't necessarily have to be a statutory responsibility. You can go beyond your call of duty so that your people, that you recognize the problems, you begin to develop strategies, and like he said, to fix them. And to have a government, you don't need to have an opposition like Ms. Roberts have been saying. That just it's not just about enumerating problems in the system. Charles Taylor did that. Samuel Doe did it. Everybody in the past enumerated problems. It's not about enumerating problems. It's about trying to tell the people this is how we will fix the problem. No one is doing that. And the only thing I can say that's positive for Mr. Boyka is that they are being able to brand him as Rescue One. That's an effective branding from a communication standpoint. But I hope he'll be able to rise to meet that standard. That's what I want to say. And thanks to all viewers out there and the panelists.
Joel.
Yeah, Pastor Alice spoke passionately about Boyka's age, and his ability to function. But like I said, the problems in Liberia, it's so insurmountable, and we need all hands on deck. All hands, including Ambassador, if he doesn't win. my fear again is his inability to connect, to speak that language of a younger generation that he will need to energize. He needs to move that young generation into the direction that he would like to take this country into. But I don't see that. I don't see him being very effective in that. So no, it's not just about the age; it's that inability to connect with that younger generation. So I will leave on this note. I hope that he can name his VP, so we can all stop lusting over his VP pick.
The
Because I
VP will be named in 4 days.
hope so, because I'm tired of lusting. I'm ready to move on. Okay.
Mrs. Roberts.
Yes, yes. I'm tired of lusting as well, because this is not fair to the Liberian people. When I was younger, I'm still young by the way, but when I was younger, and I was getting into management, the word that we were taught is you lead from where you are. Wherever you are standing, don't wait to be the manager. Don't wait to be the CEO. Don't wait to be the executive. Start where you are. So, you guys won the presidency, but you see all of these ills around where you live. Just to bring it home, I just saw Josh Lobo the other day talking to two little girls. Those are he's a stranger. He was a stranger to them. But those girls could have been exploited if he wasn't showing us what he was doing, making a point. So this is how our children are being raped. And everybody sits there and just waiting to do a press conference or do a big deal. We don't hear them talk on the little issues. A Muslim girl just this morning I heard was raped, or well, we're not sure she was raped, but she was found in the water after breaking her fast on Friday. They found her, and people all looking around. Oh, she got drowned. Nobody knows what happened to her. According to the USAID people, they don't know if they said she wasn't. There was no foul play, but they had no medical examiner. That's another issue where they're waiting for the crime scene. They're waiting for people to come from Monrovia.
Thank you,
All
Letty.
of these things. Yeah, but let's not just stand. And in closing, Mr. Garley, I am blaming the U.S. government. I am blaming them to a point for aiding and abetting our people. You see the ill and what they're doing and killing our people softly, and you keep feeding them with money. That's something in it for you, and that's not right. Thank you.
Idatus, you would take us home with your closing statement and then close us out in the prayer.
Thank you. Ashford, there is this political miscalculation that the younger you are, you spell progress. The older you are, is regression, which is quite false. And to this issue of medically, there are exceptions within medical data that there are older people who are much alert and able to do things that younger people aren't able to do. The fact remains that it all has to do with the vision and the passion for the people. And for the 42 years, the Honorable VP has been in government. He's demonstrated his selfless passion to ensure that Liberia enjoys the privilege, the rights, the benefits of the shared resources to change the dreams and aspirations of the young people today. Honorable Joseph Boyka, while it seems to be the political weapon around his age, remains passionate about changing the lives of the young people. And may I remind my fellow panelists that it was the young people who named him Rescue One, because they believe that his vision embodies their dreams and aspirations. So my encouragement to Liberians today, young and old, is to go to the polls, vote, and change the directory of your country through one who has been in government for years, not parading with the wealth of stolen money and proving himself to be something of importance as this government is doing. We clearly see that young George Weah, who happens to have come from the state of poverty and now enjoys the wealth of the nation, yet has no sense of passion and concern for your well-being, yet wants to lead you for the next 6 years, when in fact, there are people of integrity like Joseph Boyka and the rest of other members within the opposition who you must unite with to change the direction of our country. Thank you.
Close us out in prayer.
Father, we thank you and give you the glory. We pray that in spite of our political leanings, you will give us a leader after your own heart. Bless those who've watched us through all these hours. We pray for all of the panelists that we return home safely. We thank you for your grace, your mercy, that Liberia shall rise in your own timing and season. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And folks, that's all the time we have to do with you. God willing, we will be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. Until then, please allow me to borrow the words of the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. Don't see folk cry and swallow bone, because you can't hire a naked from living bucket. The mastermind, the doctor of love, the minister of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, Africa's media do extraordinaire. Grazie to Bayeke. He doesn't eat iron, but his devil is stronger than the lion. As for the giant, and now you're looking garlic. Have a good night.